All right, let me see something really quickly. Okay. So I can see it on here. It says private on the one in front of me, but I can see it on my phone. So I am just going to leave it like this. Maybe if I refresh it just a second. Oh, yep, there we go. I just refreshed it and now it's fine. Okay. So let me know you guys are here in the chat. I am incredibly, incredibly tan, I know, because I was just on my trip and we were literally outside in the sun, whether we were hiking or we were in the water for the last 6 days. So I'm incredibly, incredibly tan. All right, let me know sound is okay. I'm going to be sharing my screen a lot with you today. Get this adjusted here. Okay, I'm going to be sharing my screen with you as I show you all of my tips and tricks when it comes to traveling and how we're able to travel. I feel like people think that we're, made out of money, and we absolutely are not. But the reason that this trip was even possible was because my son Tommy and Jenna, they wanted to pay for our airfare for us to go. Now, I think it was, hey, Sarah, I think it was primarily guilt on Tommy's part. Not guilt, but yes, guilt, because him and Jenna went on their honeymoon. So they went to Hawaii. They knew that it had always been a dream of my husband and I to go to Hawaii. And we were supposed to go 2020 for our 2021. We were supposed to go for our 20th anniversary, and then COVID, and they were being crazy in Hawaii about it. Like they would make you quarantine for 2 weeks when you got there. And Hawaii is so expensive. I don't think we could have even afforded more than when we went. I don't think that most people can afford more than a week, honestly, because I will put that disclaimer out there. Hawaii is a very expensive place to go. And that is why I did so much research. And before I decided even where we were going, um, that's why I decided I wanted to go to a less touristy island. Maui and Oahu are going to be very touristy. So for most of you that don't know, Hawaii is just not like this one place. Okay. So Hawaii is actually a string of islands in the Pacific. And they're actually far, far away from civilization. The one thing that creeped me out about going there was that we had to fly over the Pacific the entire time. So we flew into LA. Tip number one is get a flight with a connecting flight. It's annoying and it's a pain, but direct flights there are incredibly expensive. And from Chicago, they did, since O'Hare is one of the biggest international airports that there are, they did have flights that were round trip nonstop. But they significantly jumped. So first of all, I'm going to tell you when you decide to go, you need to use, I'm going to go here. Let's see. Whoops. Okay. So you need to use, Google Flights to decide where, first of all, you need to research, obviously, where you're going. So let's say that we want to go from Chicago. Okay. Chicago, Illinois. We want to go from Chicago, Illinois, O'Hare. We'll use O'Hare because that's the bigger one. Let's do, Kona is where I went. So Kona, I don't know how to say half the names there. So this is where we're going to go. Okay. So let's say that we want to go this is where I went. That was last week. And 614 is about what we paid round trip. We paid right at 600 round trip, which is pretty low. Let's try, this looks like it's very low over here. Okay, so 465, that's really low. But then let's say that we have to come back on a Saturday. Okay, so then you'll put your dates in and you will search. And every option will come up. Okay, so if you noticed, all of the cheap ones have one stop. Okay. That's how it's going to go. They're going to have one stop, one stop, one stop. Now, let's say, okay, there's 50 more flights, but now by the time we're still in the one stop area, okay, look at how much it's jumped. So we went from 532 round trip with our one stop, and I did do American Airlines. So I did not do United. I did American. It was a great flight overall. It was super cramped, but whatever. That's flying, right? Notice, so all these are American ones. Now we're still at one stop and it's jumped to $1,200. Okay. And it's not even showing. I don't even know if there are any nonstops. Let's try nonstop only and see what happens. There are no nonstop flights. Okay, so there you go. Now, when I was looking, I feel like there were, but so you wouldn't even have that option for this. But let's try someplace different. Let's say that you're flying out from LA because Lax and Phoenix, those were the two places we flew into and flew out of. Let's say that you're flying out of LA. Okay. So Los Angeles. They will have nonstop. I'm almost positive. Yeah. So these are really cheap because it's directly there. Now, another thing you have to look for though is a bag included. Because if a bag is not included, it does not include overhead locker access. So you're going to have to pay for your bag. So then you're going to have to add that on to this 368. So it's not as cheap as it looks. I always do the one that includes a bag. So my first one is Hawaiian nonstop, $600 round trip, which is about what I paid from Chicago. So, and then you notice over here, here's another American 1,200. So the flights are going to be one of your most expensive things. Okay. But this is the nice thing about Google Flight Tracker. Okay. So what you just put in what you want. Okay. So let's say, I'm looking again. So I'm going to do Chicago and let's say I'm going to do, what stop do I want to go to? Okay. Let's do Florida because we're going to be doing, well, here, let's go back. Let's go back here. So we're going to do Florida. We're going to do Orlando because we go there a lot because we have friends there and we always do a family camp in October. Okay. So we're going to search for that. So I'm going to start searching for this. So my dates are going to be, if they'll even let me this far out. I don't know if they'll let me. Oh, they will. Okay. So let's do, I don't even know the dates for family camp, but let's just pretend like this is it. Okay. So we're going to fly in on a Monday and we're going to fly back out Friday night. Okay. So I'm done. So that's just going to show me the cheapest trips. And I'm telling you, you can get flights from to Orlando for way cheaper than this. I usually pay about $80 per person, but I'm going to track it. So I'm going to track the prices. I'm going to click that little thing right there, and it's going to track the prices for me. And anytime it drops, I'm going to get an email to my Gently Led Sisters account. I'm going to get an email that's going to tell me, okay, it dropped down to this. And the thing about flights are crazy. So if you, they'll jump down $150 one day, and the next day they'll jump up $100 or $200 or whatever. They're crazy that way. So they are constantly jumping around. Now you can look at little price graphs. There's lots of things you can do here. Notice it's really, really high in December. Obviously, a lot of people are flying to Florida in December. Mine is a little bit lower in October, not as many people flying, and then it kind of gradually builds through the holidays. But you can kind of see that. So the last flights I've booked rock bottom prices, and it's because of Google Flights, because they track it for me. As soon as they drop low, I snag them. So we are going to London. Abby and I are in August. She convinced me to go. And we have a friend, Fiona from Ireland, that's going with us. So she convinced me to go. So I've been saving all year for that. And I got our flights pretty decently priced. London's also very expensive, and you have to know the area you're going to. But I started tracking it with Google Flights, and we got a good deal on our tickets through Google Flights. When Chloe just went to Florida a few weeks ago, I only paid $80 round trip for her flight. When I went there, I wanted something a little bit better than low cost. So I went with American, and I paid $120 round trip for my ticket. And flights are really cheap to Orlando from our airport. So if you're going to do low cost would be Spirit, Frontier, Allegiant. I think that's all of them. They do not include your bag, but they do involve a pretty roomy personal item. And I have a $10 bag that I use off of Amazon, and you can fit quite a bit in there. So for $10, if you want the link, I can post it. I can send it to you. For $10, it fits the personal item size, and it's about that big. You can fit a lot in there. I have a clothing hack I do where I fold up all the clothes and it fits into a nice little ball right into there. So, um, we fly it all the time with our entire family. We've flown Frontier and we've flown Spirit, and we have only brought on one personal item per person. So, and it's had a whole week of clothes in it. So we've made it work. American includes a personal item and a carry-on bag. And in fact, I got questioned for the first time ever with my backpack. It's pretty big, but it does fit under the seat. It does fit the personal item requirements. But one of the stewardess stopped me and she's like, "Is that going to fit under your seat this past flight?" And I said, "Yeah, it has up until now." And she said, "Okay, well, make sure it does." It fit under the seat just fine. So that's the first time I've actually been stopped and questioned about my backpack, because it is a very big backpack, but it's right in those size requirements for everything. So yeah, know your personal size item, know your carry-on size item before you go, because you will get raked over the coals with checking bag fees. You will get raked over the coals if your personal item is too big and they make you check it. So with the low cost airfare, it does work. If you want to get from point A to point B, you will have zero frills. You have to buy everything. You have to purchase seats if you want it. We've never had a problem. They've always sat our family together. So they've never separated us, with the exception of Chloe. She got stuck way in the back in the middle seat on her way to Florida, because she was not a minor, or she was 16 and older. They'll separate them from the family if they have to. So just keep that in mind. But low cost flights will get you from point A to B. They are not comfortable. A lot of times if I'm wedged in the middle seat, especially, it'll cause neck problems and back problems. So I've actually been paying the $20 or whatever to pick up my own seat so I can get a window seat or an aisle seat, because no one wants the middle seat. I just saw a reel the other day and it said, send this to someone who you would take the middle seat in an airplane for, because that's love right there, if you'll take the middle seat for them. So yeah, just be aware of all of the sizes of bags, personal bags, what you're in for as far as low cost airfare. It's pretty much a bucket seat, very tiny space. But I'm telling you, the space in American and United, it's not very much legroom either. They cram you in there like sardines. So I think that's just pretty much flying, is you're crammed in like sardines. So yeah, be aware of that. So how did I pick where to go? I researched every single island. I wanted to know the perks of every island. I wanted to know the cost of staying on every island. I had at first decided we were going to go to Oahu because I've heard that it has some of the prettiest beaches. I've heard that it has the road to Hana, I think, or the road to Hana, I don't know how you say it, is one of the most beautiful roads ever, I guess, in the world. So I had heard all this really good stuff about it. Well, the more I started researching, and the more I decided I didn't want to go there, because I really wanted an Airbnb option. I'm not much of a resort girl. I'm kind of an independent, do your own thing, not really like into frills and whatever. I didn't really want to go to be pampered. I wanted to go to explore the island. So the nice perks about resorts is that some of them are, you get food, you have a private beach. Even though I will say all the resorts we found, we were able to go onto the beaches on resorts. It had public access. So it wasn't only for members only. One of the nicest ones that we found was we had to go be buzzed through a resort. We parked in the resort parking. They didn't even charge us, which I think someone wasn't doing their job or something. They didn't charge us to park there, and there was barely anyone there. The only thing about that is we didn't get to sit in the members only chairs that they had, the members only like sunshade things. They had different sections for like members only, but that doesn't really bother me. So I'm not really into all the frills that a resort offers. And the cheapest room I could find was $350 a night in Oahu. And this is off Priceline. So I look on Priceline to kind of get a baseline. Priceline is a tad bit cheaper. Sometimes you can find really good deals if you do express deals or name your own price. But as far as the overall price, they might be $10 to $20 cheaper a night. That's it. So I kind of use Priceline to see what my baseline is going to be. And in Oahu, it was very, very expensive. So I can show you. I'm going to show you to like the Airbnb that we ended up getting, because I think you can get so much more for your money through it. Let me try to get this. I'm having a hard time carrying this over here. Oops. Okay, there we go. So if you look to, let's do Oahu. Okay, so that would be Honolulu that you're flying into on Oahu. Let's just do June 25th through 29th. Okay, so let's find our hotel. And you're going to see that the prices are going to be really, really high. So yeah, $236 a night. This is one of the cheapest. And that's probably, let's do the lowest price here. For my time when I was going, now this is a 2-star hotel. I've heard Waikiki Beach can be a little sketchy too. Don't do this. I'm going to recommend you, please don't do this. You will be regretting it. 2.5 star might be okay. They do have price breakers where you could do this and you're going to get any of these. So that's not too bad. But for the resorts, let's say you're looking for a resort. Let me do. And the thing about Priceline too is that oftentimes you have to hostels, tents. Why are there no resorts? Oftentimes with hotels, you have resort fees as well. So you have resort fees as well. Now these don't look too bad. When I was looking though, I was not. Now this is a 4-star hotel in Central Waikiki Beach for $138. That's a pretty decent thing. Maybe this is like not a busy time in June or something. When I was looking, it was the lowest I could find was $250 a night or to $350 a night. And these are all just random hotels. So like if I put, I believe it was, I always know that Holiday Inn is going to be like a good and then you can even pick like waterfront. The waterfront beaches are going to be more expensive normally. $185 a night, $209 a night, $223, $255. So these are going to be all your waterfront ones, and they are pretty expensive. Diamond Head, $300. 5-star hotel, $300. But yes, this beach resort. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for. Resorts are all over Hawaii, and the cheapest I could find was $350 a night. But you get, it's waterfront. There's a lot of amenities included, but most of the time you also have, a $50 daily hotel fee. So it's not even $350. You have to watch the hidden fees that they have and everything. It's not even $350. It's $360 plus that $50 a day. So it's more like $410. $410 a night, which I don't understand when they're already charging the prices that they're charging. Why then are they adding on another $50 a day? Oh, and here's the other thing with Oahu. There's no parking. So I looked into hotel room, and then I noticed most of the hotel rooms had a daily fee added. And then I noticed on top of the daily fee, there was a $30 to $40 parking a day charge. So you're looking at $450 a night. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And so I looked up Airbnb, and on Oahu, there are very, very, very low Airbnbs. All right, let's choose the other one. They were not many. So if you notice, this is really all that they show, and that's not much. Now this island's small. It's a lot smaller than the big island, but there was very, very few to choose from. They only have 2 pages. And then a lot of them are their apartments. They're on resorts. So it's the same thing. You're just finding it on Airbnb. So that kind of eliminated Oahu for me. And I know I'm being like long-winded, but I really wish someone would have told me all this when I was researching it. So I decided on the Big Island. So we're going to do Kona is where there's 2 airports. There's Hilo, which is a super, super teeny airport. It literally looks like something that you would fly into in Africa or something. And then they've got the Kona, which is the cutest airport I've ever seen. It's out in the open, like open air. Everything in Hawaii is open air. They keep their doors open, their windows open. There's no screens. It's just completely open air, which is kind of cool. So I got very acclimated to the climate there because we didn't have air conditioning in our Airbnb either. So I went and I started searching these. Now look how many came up. There was so many that came up. And this is the whole island. This is the big island, but notice all of those. So if you notice, this is Oahu right here, I believe, or Maui. I don't no, Oahu's over here, Honolulu. Oh, so the road to Hana was in Maui, I think. I think this is Maui. And this is Honolulu over here. So notice though, just all of the Airbnbs. And the one that we stayed in was up here. It was up in this area. And it looks like June is actually a cheaper time to stay in Hawaii than when I stayed. But the one that I chose was up here in Hilo, near Hilo. Um, and it was really cute. So this is, let me see. The room that we stayed in doesn't look like it's even available. But our host was the one who had this house as well. Um, and this literally was my view every day. I sat for coffee and you can see the ocean from it. We could have walked down to the cliff that overlooked the ocean if we wanted. This is another house on his property, but it kind of gives you an idea. It's just a cute little bungalow. Mine was like one big open room, and it was trying to see if his other ones are listed. Here's the one we stayed in. So it was one big room. It was a cute little house. And it was just, the bed, and then you had the little kitchen area, which was really nice. So every day I would make breakfast for us there in that kitchen area. They had a beautiful bathroom, really, really nice shower, nice sink. But you saw mountains from one, and this was the view from the porch every morning when I drank my coffee. So I loved it. It was beautiful. It really was this beautiful. And it was only, I believe, they must be booked that day because it's not showing it, but 100 a night, I believe. And we had the whole house to ourselves. And he pretty much gave us our privacy. I only saw him like when we left a couple times. And then one time he was like cutting down sugarcane. It's a farm. He's a farmer or something. He was cutting down sugarcane like outside the porch. And he's like, I'll be out of here in just a second. And he was. But for me, this was the better Hawaii experience than this. I had no interest, or this, I should say. I had no interest in the resort life. I really just wanted the true Hawaiian experience. So, that's why I decided to do that. Go that way. Second, let me refresh it here. All right. Make sure if you have any questions that you're leaving them in the chat. But I did want to show pictures of us actually there. So Google flights, pick where you're going to go, research how touristy it is. Now the population of Big Island is very, very low. It's 200,000 for the entire island. And it's also the biggest island out of all of them. And Oahu has way more people. Maui has way more people because they're more compacted. And Honolulu is a bigger city. So people tend to live in the areas with the bigger cities. The Big Island is more like rural country. This is probably why I liked it. Rural country, just all spread out, the entire Big Island. The nightlife is non-existent on the Big Island. Everything is shut down pretty much by 6 to 8. Everything is closed as far as restaurants. So we found that out the hard way when we waited too long one night to eat. Everything in the town about 3 minutes from us closed at 6. And so we had to drive a little bit further to a bigger town that was open till 8. So, but pretty much everything shut down by 8. So yeah, so research where you're going to go. That was a thing I didn't realize, that like Hawaii life is very like everyone's in their homes by like 8 to 9. Like life outside of their home is done. So it's very it was very interesting. So let's see, tracking flights, Google Flights, track them. Make sure that you check all the hidden fees with your airlines. Remember that Hawaii is not Disney World. Okay. And that's kind of why I didn't want the resort. I didn't want the Disney World feel. I wanted to go to the island. I wanted to have the experience of someone living there. And I wanted to go explore the island for myself. And that's what we did. So you're also going to have to look into, do you need a rental car or are you going to be able to take public transportation? If you go to a place like Maui or Oahu, you could do without a rental car. They have enough, things are close enough together where you can take public transportation. We ended up renting a car. And this is one thing that I did not realize when we rented a car is that cars can be infested with roaches. And we got a roach infested car. And this is the one bad experience about the whole trip. My mental state was challenged when it came to this. I was fine as long as I wasn't in the car. When I was in the car, it was a different story. But when I went to go get the bag out the first day, we had driven 2 hours away. And everyone's like, well, why didn't you just return it? Well, first of all, my husband kept saying, I didn't come to Hawaii to deal with rental car places, and we were 2 hours away. So, and the place, we were not back in the area, Kona, until 2 days later. So everything that we were doing was on the upper side of the island or the east side of the island, where like Hilo was and stuff. So we didn't want to have to drive all the way back to Kona. So if you knew the Big Island, you knew what I was talking about. So I didn't even know anything was an issue. I didn't know that was a possibility. I didn't even think about it. Like I had realized that we were going to Hawaii and it could possibly be that they would be in our room or our wherever we stayed. So I was like mentally ready for that. But you're like in a bigger area, right? Our car was literally infested. So they were right there with us. That was the hardest part for me. So I took a bag out of the back and a roach scurried off. And I was like, okay, well, we're in Hawaii. I knew that would probably happen. I take the bag inside, we open it to get something out, and a roach crawls out. And I like scream. I'm like, oh my goodness. My husband's like, stop panicking. He kept telling that to me. Stop panicking. I'm like, there's a roach. And so I found it. I killed it. I'm like, good, because I didn't want it to like scurry under the bed and then like me be responsible for infesting this guy's house with roaches. Right. So I was like, okay, that's really bad if it already got into our bag in the 2 hours that we drove up here. So at that point, I'm like, okay, we need to return it. And he's like, we're not going to be going down that way for another 2 days. And he's like, I don't want to have to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours that way, and then deal with them, and then an hour and a half back. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll like get bug roach like the roach baits, and we'll get rid of them. Like I was Googling, how do I get rid of roaches in the car? Come to find out, it's a big thing in Hawaii. So if you ever rent a car in Hawaii, check before you leave the rental car place and make sure there are no roaches, no evidence of roaches. Lift, this is what I know now. Lift the mat and use your flashlight and see if there's any kind of activity. Open up the glove box, because they were always in the glove box. Open up the glove box, flip down the visor. Let's just say the next day they were falling out of vents. They were crawling out of things. They were falling on my drink that was sitting there. And people that live in Hawaii, they will tell you they do not eat or drink in the car because roaches are such a problem that their cars do become infested. So the pastor of the church that we found on Wednesday was telling us that when they had bought a car, it was really, really bad. And it took them a long time to get rid of them. And they finally did. But now what they do is if they see one, they put out the roach baits and they don't have any problems. So you just keep those roach baits all the time and you don't eat in your car, you don't drink in your car, then you'll be fine. But if you're going to get a rental car, check for roaches, because that's a new fear of mine now, is getting a rental car filled with roaches. So because of the roach baits, by the end of Friday, Friday was the first day we didn't see one, but it took about 5 days for them to slow down. And that's about average 5 to 7 days is about the time that it takes for them to carry the poison back to the nest and then for them to start dying. So yeah, if you're there for like over a week, it'll definitely take care of the problem. But even at every time I would take the bag, like I had a backpack we were carrying around with us. Every time I would take it out, and before I went into the house, I would empty everything and make sure no bug got in. Every single time there's like a teeny tiny little roach in there. So when I got home, I unloaded all of my stuff. I took everything out. I went through everything and I actually sprayed both of my suitcases inside. I sprayed our backpacks. I closed it all together and I've left it outside for a couple days just because I did not want to risk bringing that into my home, because you know how bad that can get. And roaches are one of my biggest fears. So it was literally like I was sitting in Fear Factor. Cassandra McMurtry's own Fear Factor with roaches falling on her. It was great. But besides that, it was a wonderful trip. But check for roaches. Okay. So food. Buy and buy food and make it if possible. And we limited ourselves because food is so expensive there. Guys, we stopped at we didn't know, they were smaller towns, like they're little towns on the Big Island. They're little towns when you're going to it. Maui and Oahu had bigger towns somewhat. Like Honolulu is very big, and that's on Oahu. So things are not going to be as pricey there. Well, we stopped at a local drugstore just to get some supplies like bread and eggs and butter because we didn't know that well, there is a Walmart on the Big Island, but it's near the Kona Island where the rental car was. So it was way too far from us. So we just stopped at the first place we thought would have bread and eggs and butter. And I spent $15 on a dozen cage-free eggs. And my husband's like, we are eating every single one of those eggs because they're like over $1 a piece. And we did. We ended up eating the whole dozen. I spent $11 on a loaf of bread. $11 on a loaf of organic bread. I spent $9 on 4 sticks of butter. It is crazy. Like the prices in Hawaii are insane. That is why. Now, I will say when we went to the Walmart, their prices were not too much higher than what they are here. So the Walmart still kept it pretty low compared to all the prices I saw around the island. Walmart did a good job of keeping them low. So, I wish I would have known that when we picked up the rental car. I could have just swung over to Walmart first, got what we needed, and then driven to the Airbnb. So you always figure out things that would have been better, obviously, after you've done it. But we made every breakfast there, and then we ate out one meal. So we would pick up like a candy bar or a trail mix if we needed it. But we actually did not consume a ton of food on this trip just because it was so expensive. So that kept us from doing it. But outings, this was my favorite part. So I'm definitely going to share this with you. I want you to see some of the places that we saw. Now, Hawaii is so expensive. I would love for my children to see this, but I almost think we need to make it like a requirement when they get married for their husband to take them on a honeymoon to Hawaii because it's so expensive. Okay, so let me see if I have any pictures from the first. Yes, this is the first night. So we found this lovely Hawaiian. We actually ate here twice. This was some kind of Hawaiian beef hamburger. It was really, really good. And sweet potato fries. And then we would get water, of course, with every meal. And it was very, very good prices here. So I think both of our meals, it was about $30, which is really good price for food in Hawaii. This is one of the first things I saw. So, not that one. This was the first night. This was like 2 miles down the road from where we were staying. We had a big ocean view, and this was like I can't say the name. Some point, some lookout. My mom knew exactly where it was because she's been here, but it was, oh, this is something unique to the Big Island too. If you're deciding between islands, the Big Island has a ton of black lava. Okay, because the Big Island also has the world's largest active volcano on it. So that is something to remember. And I thought that was so cool. I wanted to go see it. That was another thing that made my decision. But everywhere is this black lava. And this black lava is very, very rough. Like if I brushed up against it at all, I would scrape myself. So this is the first night. We have jet lag. You can tell like my hair's a frizzy mess. The climate was terrible for my hair. So I just left it in braids most of the time because it did no favors. It was just a frizzy mess. This is after traveling since we had been up since 1 or 2 a.m. that day. This was the view from my porch. That is the ocean. It's gorgeous. So every night we'd watch the sunset and the sunrise. This was the sunrise. This was the next day. Snorkeling was my favorite thing. Now, I will say for excursions, we decided not to spend a lot of money on excursions. Everything is super expensive. We looked into snorkeling off of a boat. It was $200 per person. We had a very limited budget for this trip. So we were like, nope, that's out. So you know what we did? From that same place, we rented snorkeling. So like the snorkel, the glasses, and the flippers, $13 a piece for 24 hours. And we found our own snorkeling place, and it was right around this area. It was called Two Step Beach. It was kind of off to the right over here. This was a historical park that was right next to it, kind of connected, and we walked through. It was gorgeous. But once again, You do have the sand or the rocks, but you have the black lava all the way around. So Two-Step Beach had 2 steps out of the lava carved into the water. And as soon as you got in there, it was beautiful. I am so sad I didn't have a way to take underwater pictures because it was seriously like you were in Finding Nemo. And then my husband made me go swim with him to the edge of the reef because at the edge of the reef, once you got to it, it just dropped into nothing. You know, like on Finding Nemo, when his dad's like, Nemo, get back here. It's not safe. That's what it looked like. And I was like, I'm not staying here because it was creepy. I just imagined sharks and all sorts of things to be out there. This is that historical park. I couldn't stop taking pictures of palm trees because it was so pretty. I mean, look how pretty it is. But every area has this black lava. As you go up in the string of islands, the black lava gets less and less. So we only found a couple white sand beaches on the Big Island because most of it they have black sand beaches. They also had a green sand beach, which would have been kind of cool, but we never got a chance to visit it. But you'll see this black lava everywhere. That was the kitty cat that came with the Airbnb, and I fed them. Rainbow Falls was my prettiest one. So we did waterfalls, but I will caution you with Google Maps, it did take us on a couple wild goose chases to where one of them was on a resort and you had to pay $50 per person to get in to see this waterfall. And we were like, no, we're not doing that. So this is public. This is free for everyone. Rainbow Falls was the prettiest. Notice the double rainbow there. It just looks fake. Like it was so beautiful. It just looks totally fake. And this is the one day I kind of looked presentable because we were going to church later that night, even though I ended up getting extremely muddy. But here is the waterfall. It's just really beautiful. And you notice you always have the rainbows in it. Yeah, there's always flowers everywhere. It's just such a pretty place. It is a beautiful place. I highly encourage. This is another waterfall that was open to people. We kind of hiked a little bit back. That's the thing about too, there's not many restrictions on the hiking in Hawaii. You kind of do your own thing, which is kind of cool. I kind of liked that. This was the volcano. We did go to the volcano. Volcanoes are kind of creepy. I'm not going to lie. It kind of reminds me of hell because it's just completely barren. And then you can't really see it in this video, but there was steam. There's steam vents everywhere. So there's steam vents that come up and they smell like sulfur, like black rubber or burning rubber. Not too overpowering, but this was a lava tube. This is one of the ones that lava comes flowing through. We walked down into the crater. So this is my husband at the edge of the crater. We walked from way up here to way down there. So it was a strenuous hike. That's the thing about Hawaii. I don't think I realized we wanted to just explore. So it was a ton of hiking. So we got the lowest steps I got was 18,000. The most I got was 27,000. It was on this day because we walked way down here. And then you can walk all the way across the crater. But it's very, very hot and very rough. And it's just very barren. Things are trying to grow. This actually, the last time it erupted was last September. So it's very active. This was on a hike where we didn't get to finish it because we had to make it in time for church. And I was really disappointed because you walk 2 miles through these woods and it was basically through mud, but then it opens up into this gorgeous area. And I guess there was a white sand beach and there's only 5 people back there because you have to take this grueling hike to get back there. But there was sea turtles everywhere and we didn't get to see it because we had to turn around and go back because we had church. This was one of the most popular white sand beaches in the Big Island. And it was through a resort, but it has public access. There's one of the little crabs there. You notice you can see mountains off in the distance. And we were very blessed. Most of the days that we went, it was very limited people. So we kind of had the whole place to ourselves. It was pretty private. This was another beach. This wasn't my favorite. It was kind of overgrown like this. So, and it was very rocky along the edges. See? Very rocky, these big lava rocks everywhere. So we pretty much just enjoyed the view for about an hour and a half before we went on. I tried all of the food that I could. This was at a food stand. I took full advantage of the food stands. This is down along Kona. Kona had the biggest waves. And that's where all the surfers were. And they would go, we saw people diving off of a cliff over here, which is crazy. So that's where and yes, I talked him into a Hawaiian shirt. And by the end, oh, look, you can see the people diving right there. Look, it looks like one's almost he's climbing up or he's in the air. They were way up here and they were jumping. They were diving, cliff diving. And they were all younger guys, of course. But yes, I talked him into the Hawaiian, and you will find that it is very culturally accepted. What he's wearing is dress clothes in Hawaii. So the pastor wore a Hawaiian shirt when he preached Wednesday night. So it's very cultural. These Hawaiian shirts actually originated in Hawaii. So, and the ones that we bought were made in Hawaii. Not the one I'm wearing here, but the souvenirs that we bought at Walmart, they are made and they're cut out and sewn in Hawaii. So this was just beautiful. I can't get over the beauty of it. It's a gorgeous place. So yeah, it's just after a while though, it's very green in some places. Now, the Big Island actually has the most diverse climate and the most diverse terrain. Everywhere you drive around the island, it has different climates. It has 10 of the 12, I believe. I believe that's it, of the different climates of the world. The only ones it doesn't have is the polar and the sub-zero temperatures. But all the other climates it has desert climate, it has tropical, it has dry, it has wet. And so it's just a beautiful place. But I will say, definitely no. Aw, hi, Amos. That's so cute that you're saying that you're saying hi. So I will say know the area that you're going. And if you want to go to Hawaii, definitely do your research and figure out the best options. I wish I could take our family there, but I just don't know if realistically we could ever afford it because it's very expensive to go. Like I said, our airfare was around $600. Our Airbnb was about $100 a night. So we paid about $500 to $600 for the whole week for our Airbnb, which was a great deal. As far as food, I'm not sure how much we spent, but we only tried to eat out once a day, and then maybe $10 to $15 on snacks, throughout the day or the food truck or whatever. For our outings, we paid very minimal. We did all the hiking ourselves. We didn't go any guided tours. The best place for snorkeling on the Big Island is the Captain Cook Memorial, like the Captain Cook Bay down there. And you could rent a $200 to $400 charter to take you out there snorkeling, or you can make the 2-mile hike down, go snorkeling yourselves, and make the 2-mile hike back up. We did not do any snorkeling down there, but I will say the way back up was one of the hardest hikes I've done because for me personally, it's really hard for me to hike up things. I get really out of breath. My heart rate skyrockets. So we had to take a lot of breaks and we did not prepare enough. It's another thing. If you're going to go hiking in Hawaii, know your trail and know how much water you need. We only had a 20-ounce. My 20-ounce Stanley is the only water we had. And by the way up, I was dying. Most people, when they hike it on the way up, they take a gallon of water with them. And you need a gallon of water because it's very hot. It's 1,400 feet going down, 1,400 feet straight back up. We encountered a few old people on our way back up. And I'm pretty sure they had to get airlifted out of there because there's no way they could make it all the way back up. I don't know what possessed them to even go all the way down and then try to make it back up because one of the ladies was having heat exhaustion and she had stripped off her clothes down to her underwear because she was trying to cool off. And at that point, she just didn't care because she was so overheated. And we met a guy from their group coming back down and he asked if we had seen a couple older ladies and we said yes, and that they were really struggling. And he told us, he said, I don't think that they're going to be able to make it up without medical evacuation. And I told him, I said, I think you're right. I don't think they're going to make it back up because they were in really bad shape. And he said that the husband, who was also an older gentleman, was up near the top and he was having heat exhaustion. So definitely be careful. I researched hiking shoes before we went and I decided on a pair of hiking sandals, which I loved. And I hiked everywhere, all over the island. And those people will tell you to wear closed-toed shoes on that hike, but I did fine with my open-toed sandals and my sandals had a lot of traction. So they're very slippery rocks, like crumbly rocks that you're constantly walking on. And I felt my shoes had better traction than my husband's tennis shoes. So I would definitely have a pair of hiking sandals or hiking shoes if you go hiking on those. Lots of very rough trails in Hawaii. So, and Hawaii is very untamed. So, a lot of trails, if you find them that Google Maps will take you to, they haven't even been maintained. So it's not travelable. You can't travel it. It's not passable. Now this one specifically, the Captain Cook is a very famous one, very popular one. And there are a couple people that live in Hawaii that bushwhack it all the time. And they actually keep it to where people can walk it all the time. So they've kind of taken that as their hobby or whatever. But definitely know your hike and know how much water you're going to need. And whatever you pack on the trail, you need to take back with you because there's no facilities, there's no restrooms, there's no garbages along the way. It's very wild. Hawaii is very free and wild. And I feel like I got the whole experience, because we were, like I said, we were hiking on these remote trails in the mud, 2 miles through the woods. We saw maybe 3 people the entire time going there and back. So we truly did feel like we were exploring the entire island. So it was really fun. But and then lastly, souvenirs. We just took advantage of Walmart, and all of their things that we bought were like all of the Hawaiian shirts I bought and the Hawaiian dresses for the girls I bought were all Hawaii made. So obviously souvenir shops are going to have cheaper if they're like from Indonesia or China, but I wanted to get the actual ones made in Hawaii. So they were a little pricey. It was like $20, I think, a shirt or something, but it was worth it because my kids held down the fort while we were gone, and I felt like they deserved a little something. So, all in all, we stayed within budget. We also had a couple friends that gifted us with funds too, which was really nice to make sure that we didn't go over budget. And so we didn't go into debt for this. We're firm believers about having memories over things, but not going into debt to have those memories. So if we know that something's coming up, we will put aside money, we will save, we will budget for it, and we will strive really hard not to go over budget when we're on that trip. And we did a very good job this time, but it was because number one, we limited our eating. Number two, we chose cheap activities. And we were there for the hiking and the scenery, and that's what we did. And it was amazing. So I would highly recommend it to anyone that's able to go. And also, disclaimer I want to put out there, my season is not your season. I don't want you to look at my life and be like, oh my goodness, I want to travel and do all the things. This was the first year that I've been able to do this in over 2 decades of marriage. So it's taking us, you in your first 5 years of marriage are not going to have the experiences that I'm having 2 decades into my marriage. Okay. So if I can give you some tips to help you travel cheaply, that's great. But just remember, moms, that every season is a good one. And when we were younger, we traveled remotely, like to states around us, and we always had our kids with us. And yeah, it got a little hairy sometimes. It's hard traveling with kids, but now they have memories, that they talk about all the time. So, you can make it happen, but as you're building your family and you're building your life too, you need to think, what are my priorities in life? And being in the ministry has not been easy by any stretch of the imagination, but God has given us experiences that I don't think we would have had not being in the ministry. Let me explain. So I have been able to travel to Ireland, but it's because through my husband's online ministry, we were able to meet friends that are now like family. We call them the Irish Liberty Baptist Church members, And because of that, I was able to fly to their home and stay in their home. And they knew the sites, they knew all the great places to go. And I was able to travel right along with them. So I would not have been able to afford a trip to Ireland otherwise, but God crossed our paths, and now they're like family. And there's just been different, church members that have financially wanted us to do things and have provided for that. And God's been really good. The ministry comes with struggles, but it has perks and blessings as well. So My life is not going to be your life, and your life is not going to be my life. You might be able to afford a trip to Oahu and stay at a 5-star resort, and that's great. And I'm so excited for you. But I'm not able to afford that lifestyle. So I find cheap ways to do what I want to do. And I find ways to make it happen. And there's always a way to make it happen. And one of the reasons that I'm able to is because we try to keep our bills and our debt very low. So if we were strapped up to the eyeballs in debt, we wouldn't be able to do anything extra. So that's a motivation too for those of you that want to travel maybe as your kids get older, keep your debt low. You don't need the biggest, fanciest house. You can raise a family in a tiny house. You can raise a family in a house with no frills and then use whatever extra you would have been paying on your mortgage to save away for a trip somewhere. So there are ways to do what you want to do. And there are ways to do it on a shoestring budget, believe me, because I do it every day of my life. So I hope these tips have helped you. I'm going to go ahead and end it. And I hope you enjoyed seeing a little glimpse into my trip. My husband's like, I can't believe you're going to do a show. You just want to show people about your Hawaii trip. And I was like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I? And I just kind of wanted to share some of the tips too, because I know a lot of people have been asking me about it. Like, how were you able to do it? Like, were you able to do it cheaply? What'd you do? What were some of your experiences? What would you change if you knew? Probably the biggest thing I would change is I would make sure the car wasn't roach infested. And number two, I would research the hikes we did a little bit better. We were just kind of winging it. Like we were literally driving and Googling hiking trails near me, waterfalls near me. So we just kind of wanted to do the whole fly by your seat of your pants thing. The snorkeling place we found was amazing. I would recommend that. It was Two-Step Beach. And then there's a lady next to it that so we had eaten breakfast and then we went snorkeling and we hadn't brought any food with us and we were starving. Well, she sold whole pineapples for $8 and then she sold papaya smoothies and she said she added figs and what else was it? Papayas, figs. She made this healthy. It was amazing. So between my husband and I, we both had a papaya smoothie and then we ate a whole pineapple and that like was great. It sustained us and we were able to go snorkeling for longer time. And then when we left there, we were able to go find a place to eat later. So take advantage of the local food. The food trucks are very decently priced. I think I had gotten like a caramel latte at a food stand and it was like $4.50. And then I had gotten those donuts that I showed, Hawaiian donuts, and I think those were like three for $6 or something. I don't know. And then my husband bought a whole coconut. So he like bought a whole coconut and they like stuck a straw in it and he drank it. And then one of my other favorite things about the island was their coconut water. So amazing. I love coconut water and they make their own and they sell, one of them has actual bits of coconut in it. So good. And then I bought a coconut water in the airport on the way back because I was missing it. And it was like, oh, this is terrible. It doesn't even compare to Hawaii coconut water. So that is one thing I'm going to miss is the Hawaii coconut water. But yes, Chinello, amen. Don't compare your 2-year marriage with someone else's 20-year marriage. It takes a long time. Hey, my husband and I have both put up with a lot from each other in 23 years. Okay. So we deserve this Hawaii trip. And yeah, we're going to have, my kids are older now, so they're able to hold down the fort while I go. I wouldn't have been able to do this when I had a 5, 4, and 3-year-old. So my experiences are going to be different than yours, and yours are going to be different than mine, but hopefully this helped. So I'll see all of you ladies next week. I'll try to come up with a topic. I've been kind of all over the place with this month, but I'll try to come up with a topic, a series by next week. So we will see you later.